BJJ report 2019 0520. If you have ever wondered why I date stuff like that, I'll tell you why. It happens to be I think Europeans write the dates like that. I can't be sure. Maybe other places around the world that use the metric system. What happens when you sort files and you put the date 2019 0520? It's always in order, right? It always goes in sequential order. If you put the dates and you're putting you're sorting files and you do the dates and you'd say 0520, it doesn't sort the dates properly when you sort the files. There you go. Not only is this the BJJ report, it is also little tips and tricks on how to do your files. Lots of stuff going on, guys. Lots of stuff going on with the BJJ report today. I'll tell you kind of what we were doing coming from Southern Jersey, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu this morning. And one of the things that I neglected to do when I first began BJJ. What's up, Eric? What's up, Ted? Rebecca? What's going on? So one of the first things that I neglected to do when I first started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, even though I was told I should, was to journal, write down what you learned. And when you write down and journal what you learn, you have a better chance of retaining it. You get to redo it in your mind. You get to kind of create another physical asset. And you have a better chance of learning the material. In addition to that, it's very much alike to Stephen Covey says, if you go into something and you know you have to teach somebody later, you have more chance of paying more attention to something. So when I go in there and I'm watching the lesson and I'm getting ready to do it, I'm thinking to myself, well, I got to remember to write this down. I got to remember all the nuances. I've got to remember the little pieces, maybe even recall what worked for me that the professor or the teacher didn't mention, and say, oh, you know what, if I did this just a little differently, this is what works for me. Because essentially, whenever you go to a lesson, whenever you're learning a lesson, whenever you're being taught the framework, you're being taught the gist of it. You're being taught like I just said, the very elements, the elementary units of it. And it's kind of up to you to fill in some of the missing gaps and when you go to apply it. And that's exactly what we get to do when we're doing jiu-jitsu. For example, this morning, Professor Josh was teaching this interesting move from De La Riva, which is basically you've got, I'm down on my back, you're standing up, I've got my foot up in your hip, and I've got my other hand on your ankle, and I've got my left leg wrapped around. It's, you're all pretzeled up already. But the idea was, we had to kind of do this flag staff, and he called it a flag staff, and it totally makes sense because I can see it in my eyes. You basically shoot up on your shoulder and get both your legs out here, and you pull it back in. The deal is, he's like, does anybody need me to walk them through that again? I was like, yes, I'm gonna need you, because it's the first time I'd ever seen it. And he goes, listen, just attempt what you think or thought you heard, and I'll walk you through it. So that's, when you're being taught something, when Dr. Watson is saying it's pure elementary, and he's watching all these things, then you know that that's the basis, that's the rudiments of what you're learning, and it is up to you to apply and try and figure out. Because nobody can teach just by using words, right? You can't teach just by using words. You can get an understanding, you can get a picture, but until you actually go through it yourself and apply what you've learned, you're not going to know for certain what the bleep was just said in front of you. Fair enough? Fair enough. Moving on. So again, that was moving on. I'm very excited. Also, I mean, in terms and in regards to education, most of us didn't have the opportunities when we were growing up that are available today as it relates to the types of education that you can receive, as it relates to your children in elementary school or public school or private school, charter school. So many things that were not available to you and I while we were growing up are available now. That being said, when we left North Carolina, we were in an amazing public school that truly loved the children and had the tools and the ability and the go-ahead to utilize these tools with love for the children and love of and for learning. And it was marvelous, definitely marvelous. And a different school system. We've moved, and we have not found something that is to our liking in the same manner. And the beauty of it is that right now we have the opportunity to put our children in a different type of school. We're blessed, I'll say that, to be able to afford the opportunity to do it. And we're taking this chance and putting our children into a school that we think is the best possible chance for their education. And we want them to learn how to learn. We want them to learn to love learning. We want them to be able to express how they feel and be heard, which we feel like there's this opportunity for that at this school. And that's not just for our students. I mean, that's for ourselves, right? You've got to be able to put yourself in a position where you know that you're being cared for. You've got to produce, sure, but you've got to put yourself in a position to lean into something that you love to do, or at least be able to figure out what it is that you're doing and put something bigger behind what you're doing, and say, you know what, I'm not just drawing doodles on this piece of paper today. I'm not just slamming some code into this macro that I'm doing. I'm not just coding this. I'm bringing joy to people. I'm connecting people, and the day job that I've got, I get to participate in practically connecting the whole world. I guarantee you that you probably I've touched your life outside of this, and for the people that aren't even listening, there's a huge chance, the possibility that if you sent a packet of information across the internet in the United States of America, that I've touched your life. Okay, and that's huge. I've got to think that way to remember that that's what I'm doing, because otherwise I can get stuck in the cycle of, and I have gotten stuck in the cycle of, all I'm doing is smashing buttons, right? All I'm doing is, I'm not doing anything more than what's right in front of me. And sometimes we got to see beyond ourselves, and that's what I want our children to be able to see beyond themselves and the education that they're going to participate in. And you know what? Like, we didn't have the opportunity. Let's say you don't have the opportunity to do that. I know this gentleman Donnie. He just traveled across the country and southern America with 8 children and doing homeschooling. You can do whatever you want to do wherever you want to do it. You've really just got to make that decision. So if you think that you're stuck where you are today, you're not. You've got to be able to make the decision. Do I want all the things do I have? Do I want everything that I have, or can I leave everything that's sitting right here and still go live a life worth living? Or, can I what do I still want? What do I want to harvest right now? What do I want what good is in my life right now that I want to take with me into the rest of my life? I know that's a lot for a Monday morning Southern Jersey Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but a couple of takeaways for me, and hopefully for you, is the first one is and you're going into a situation, act like, go in there with the mindset that you've got to teach what you just learned. Go in there with the mindset that you are learning something. Go in there with the mindset that you're learning to teach others, so that you can teach others, what you just learned. Even if it's just yourself, because like I said, I come out of the class and I journal. I write down what I just learned. I've got to reteach myself in as quickly as possible what I just learned. Number 2 of this was, we've got to always be the advocate for our children, and there's so many options available today that were not available before. If you don't like the education that your child is receiving, if you feel like the education that your child is not receiving is in their best interest, don't think that money is the option. Don't think that money is the point. Think about their education and make a decision to go figure it out. I mean, at this school that we're taking our children to, financial aid is available. Financial aid isn't just for going to college. Financial aid isn't just for these loans. There are grants available. There's so many different ways, and the state law stipulates that your child is entitled to the best possible education for them, and provided by the public, provided with your state dollars. Look into it, and that's exactly what we're doing this week. The children are going for a week to a school that is, for lack of better terminology, alternative to the traditional. And I told Meg this weekend, listen, how much, ladies and gentlemen, how much would you pay in today's dollars to be able to go back and know everything that you know today in terms of learning how to learn and applying your knowledge and following your passion and finding what you love and being taught how to bring what you love to fruition? What if you were taught that when you were 10, when you were 15? What if you were taught leadership skills and how to listen to each other and work with each other when you were 10 or 15? Where would you be today, and how much would you be willing to pay to have that life? And that's what I told Meg when that's the presentation. She found the school, we went to it, and that's how we phrased it, and that's how we've got to look at it. And then the other part is you're not stuck where you are, right? We're not stuck with them having to go there. We're not stuck in this life. I mean, my current boss brought that to light for me. Because listen, these are the hours that I work. This is the life that I live. This is the time that I have to do what I do with. And it was pretty rough in terms of that's his life. And you know what? He goes, that's my choice. I don't have to keep this job. I can go do something else. I do this by choice. And you hear it said all the time that is the type of life that you can choose and your choice. But he right there, that's my choice. I was like, wow, dude, that's, you got to know where you are. And so if at any point the life that you are living is not to your liking, you've got to look at that and sell yourself that is your choice. You are where you are today by your own choice. And I think that once you realize that, once you take a serious look at that, you say, I am where I am, and it is my choice. And as a matter of fact, every choice that I've made has led me to this life, which makes you say, so with conscious choice, where could I be if I wanted to be there? Where do I want to be? And make that your choice. Well, guys, good morning. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The BJJ report. Take it easy.